Yes, I'm sitting. Sitting is the opposite of standing. Sitting is the opposite of roaming around. Sitting is the thing I like to do. I have a song stuck in my head. I don't know if you've heard it.
Sitting is the opposite of standing. Sitting is the opposite of running around. Sitting is a wonderful thing to do.
Hello, it's me, your girl, Savannah. I don't know what that intro was. Today we are going to be doing another Vintagify video. I know I haven't done them in a while, so maybe you guys will be excited for this one. I started watching One Piece, the Netflix one, with my husband. And before y'all come at me and be like, the anime, blah, blah, blah. I'm very aware of the anime. I've known about it for many, many years. The reason why I never watched the anime or read the manga was because there was so much. And just looking at how much there was, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's way too much. And also I've heard that the anime is full of fillers. That's what my husband says. He's seen all of it. But I watched the Netflix version and I really liked it. And my husband said it's like pretty accurate, I think, to the anime. And so it kind of makes me want to watch the anime now. But I very much feel like this meme.
Stop crying. It won't do any good. And anyway, you have a lot of work to do starting right now.
Yeah. Anyway, today we're going to be doing a Vintagify mashup thing. We're going to do One Piece and Popeye. Like 1930s Popeye. And the reason for it is because Luffy ate the gum gum fruit. This isn't spoilers. This is literally like you find out about this like very soon. But Luffy eats the gum gum fruit and is a very stretchy boy. And I was like, stretchy rubber hose, 1930s. Just kind of makes sense. And then Popeye is like a sailor. Why do I have this? Makes sense, right? Am I wrong? Like, so we are going to be doing the characters in like a 1930s Popeye version. So just follow along and enjoy the ride. Yeah, I don't know either. Okay, so we are starting off with some sketches. I just put down this photo as a reference of placement. I just kind of placed the characters in very general shapes because I liked the layout of it. And then I started sketching the characters. I flip between just the Procreate recording and then a screen recording so you can kind of see how I always have a reference on the side that I can keep going back and forth to. I find it really helpful. I made sure to reference a lot of different characters from Popeye and then Popeye adjacent cartoons like Betty Boop and other Fleischer works because I found out actually in looking up stuff that Popeye initially was in the Betty Boop lore, like it was part of the Betty Boop series in a way, and then it branched off and was its own thing. So you'll see it later on that the girls are kind of more Betty Boop inspired and then the guys are a little more Popeye inspired, just because I felt like Olive Oil from Popeye just she was a little like too goofy for Nami and Robin, even though you'll see that with Robin I tried to make her a little more like Olive Oil inspired and then Nami was a little more Betty Boop inspired. I tried to combine the two a little bit to make it cohesive. I don't know if I did a good job on it or not, but you can let me know down below if you agree or disagree. So for line art, I decided to keep it pretty thin since the animation of Popeye their line art was kind of thin. Now there was also a comic and their line art was way thicker and had a lot more variation to the line weights. And I prefer that, but since I was kind of going more for the cartoon TV version, I decided I would keep it thinner and then just have like the smallest amount of line weight difference in the tapers and everything, just because I feel like that always looks a little nicer. So yeah, I kind of went back and forth between the two and tried to kind of do a combo. I'm not sure if I nailed it or not. This style was like both hard and easy at the same time. It was easy because it's very simplistic, and so a lot of their bodies and hands and face, like they're all just like basic shapes, simple shapes, easy things to animate and move, which makes sense because all of this type of stuff was hand drawn in the 30s and 40s. There was obviously no computers, so everything was drawn frame by frame on paper with like paper and pencil and cells and painting and everything. So they would usually stick with more basic shapes or shapes that are easier to animate throughout each scene, and you wanted to keep the design simple because the more lines and stuff you have to track, the harder and more time consuming it is to animate. So when translating that into this style, I tried to keep the same idea. I tried to keep their clothing simple and keep them in more basic shapes and try to just completely simplify the character down. And that, I think, was the harder part, translating a very elaborate style. Like anime characters can be very over the top in their character design, so going from that to like a super simplistic style, I had to figure out what I was eliminating and what I was keeping and how to make the character recognizable within the shapes that I've confined myself to. So that was kind of the challenge. I had to do a lot of thinking of how am I gonna translate, you know, for example, Frankie's gigantic robot arms into a Popeye style, like more simplistic thing, which is just really kind of breaks it down into just shapes. And then for Brooke, I actually referenced a lot of skeletons from Fleischer Studios, the infamous Bobo the Clown and Betty Boop one, as well as other skeletons that appeared in other episodes of other Fleischer work. Now for the background, I kind of cheated a little bit. I was really running out of time. I didn't have the time to sit down and do a nice matte painting of a background. So what I ended up doing was essentially stealing the title screen from Popeye because it's on a ship, and I was like, this is kind of perfect. So I stole it, and it's in black and white, so I took it into Procreate and added a gradient map and kind of messed with the colors. I thought that this would work, and I thought I was kind of saving myself a lot of time. I was just adding little details here and there and, you know, adding colors into this originally black and white image. But as you will see down the line, I realized that because this is just kind of like pulled from the internet, the DPI was just so low and it just looked super pixelated, and I ended up kind of hating how you could really tell it was just like a blown up image. So I ended up painting over like the whole thing essentially and blending stuff out. So I did end up spending time painting, but I probably still saved myself time. The only reason why I did this was because I just did not have enough time to sit down and paint something elaborate, but also because this background is probably from somebody who is already dead. And, you know, I did my own little edits to it. So normally I would paint my own thing, but I needed something quick, you know, had to get something out. I ended up making the background darker too so that the characters on the foreground would pop more. because I didn't want the background to really be the center of attention. I wanted it to be the characters. And the colors from the characters I dropped from a Popeye cartoon. You can see here is where I started painting over things. I was just eye-dropping the colors that existed from my colorized version and then just was painting right on top and blending things out. I was kind of sloppy, but I honestly, again, I was trying to get something out quick and I was rushing and trying to get things a little more smoothed out. So a lot of this is just dropping down color and blending things out and kind of only doing the parts that you would see because the characters were covering most of the background anyway. At this point, there wasn't really much else to do to the characters because they're so simplistic. They really don't have any shading or any sort of specific treatment to stuff. So I added like very, very, very minimal highlights to like Chopper's nose and to the glasses on Robin's head and her eyelids. But other than that, there wasn't really much else besides just, small details, adding lines into the outfits and stuff. I added the text. The Popeye's text was kind of chunky and was alternating in position, so I did the same thing. I just added drop shadows under the text as well as an outline and ended up changing the colors, but I wanted it to have that Popeye vibe, but still also the One Piece vibe. So the colors I ultimately chose were the colors from the One Piece title, which is like a gradient blue. Now, the last thing I did was the treatment for the whole image to make it look more like a TV show, kind of. This is a little different than how I treat my other stuff to make it look vintage, like it's printed. This is more like a vintage TV. So what I ended up doing was duplicating the line art and doing the chromatic aberration underneath and on top, just kind of messing with it just ever so slightly to give it a blur and a slight color shift. And then I also put a drop shadow under each of these layers and just did the slightest bit of a shadow. Nothing too crazy, because if you think about how it was animated, you would have cells on top of each other and they would have just like the tiniest little shadow that exists because they are going to be layered. So I did the same thing, just the littlest shadow, the littlest, most subtle drop shadow, as well as kind of blurring the lines and blurring, well, mostly everything, because you don't want it to be too sharp because the quality wasn't amazing back then. So that's what I did for the treatment of the line work and the coloring. And then I also ended up adding a noise layer on top that I just kind of put as I think I did a color burn. And with that, we're basically done with this image. So let's move on over to the reveal. Ooh. That's about it, honestly. What do you think? Do you think I achieved what I was aiming to do? Do you think it looks like a Popeye One Piece crossover? What's your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. And let me know if you'd like me to do some other kind of Vintagify art. Let me know what mashup you want down below. As always, links to all my social media stuff is in the box below, as well as links to my monthly sticker club, where you get stickers from me every single month, as well as extra goodies. I also have a imprint shop where I sell prints, and I have a merch shop for other stuff like enamel pins and everything as well. All of those links are down below in the box. And I also want to tell you guys about one other thing. Pre-orders are now open for my Cute But Cursed Cover Girls book. It's going to contain all of the cute and cursed pinups that I've done over the past few months or weeks or whatever. Pre-orders are open till October 14th, and ideally these should be shipped out by around the beginning of November. So go to my website, links are down below, and place an order now. Okay, that's it. Goodbye!